Okay, so I think we're good to go now. Hopefully everyone can hear me okay. Welcome, my name is Chloe Lawrence and I'm a technical consultant at Ultima. And today I'm going to be talking you through the Power Platform and just some different areas within the Power Platform. It is very vast. So we're just focusing on a couple of kind of customer challenges during this webinar and how we can overcome those. So I'm hoping to give you a bit of an idea of what the Power Platform can do, whether you're a beginner or you already have some skills with the Power Platform. And I really want you to maybe think about some of your own challenges that you have at the moment, maybe some tasks that you find quite cumbersome, and hopefully by the end of this webinar, you'll have an idea on how you can overcome some of those challenges and how the Power Platform might actually be able to help you overcome some of those things. So let's take a look at the agenda for today. Now, I am going to be using a bit of slides and a little bit of actually showing you things in action as well. So just going to quickly whiz through the agenda. So we're going to have a quick look at what the Power Platform actually is, just in case you are a beginner and you haven't used it before. We're going to have a look at what makes up the Power Platform. So it is quite vast, as I mentioned, but I'm just going to talk about the key areas that we're going to be using today. A quick question as to why we would want to change and start using the Power Platform. And then we're going to look at some of those customer challenges which I was speaking about. So the first challenge is going to be moving a process from paper to automation. And the second challenge is an approval process to help our marketing team. And we're going to be using Power Automate to create this solution. Then I'm going to talk about just the Power Platform training that we can provide, because you probably know that Ultima, we provide consultancy services, but what we can also provide is just some training and support if you do already have Power Platform knowledge. So I'll just kind of touch on what the options are there at the very end as well. So let's take a look at what the Power Platform actually is. And as I say, I've got a lot to get through, so I'm going to try and go through these pretty quickly. Oops, don't skip past it. So the Power Platform, summarized, is pretty much a set of tools which make work life easier and more efficient. And we can create these apps, reports, and automations with low code. So it's a very easy solution to start getting to grips with, and it saves us having to maybe outsource a lot of our technology. It also works alongside a huge range of external applications like Azure, Office 365, which hopefully a lot of you are already using, and artificial intelligence and cognitive services tools. Now, you don't need to know too much about those. I'm going to give you a bit of a preview as to what those tools can actually do, and I've used them in a couple of the apps that I'm going to hopefully show you today. And just taking a look now at what makes up the Power Platform. So there is more than this, but as I say, I'm just trying to kind of get through as much as we can. So we're looking at Power Apps today, which is pretty much an application to create applications. Now, this can be done in an editing canvas. So if you imagine a sort of drag and drop style, you add the different elements to the page that you want, like buttons, and you can connect that to a data source. Or you can approach from maybe the business model side by creating a model-driven app, which is a slightly different approach. Now, we're going to be looking at a Canvas app today. So this is like a nice app that I've made that's basically something that you can rustle up pretty quickly. Power Automate is how we can actually create workflows. So these are flows that sort of run in the background, and they allow us to do different things like create an approval process, or to send data from one place to another, to automatically send emails and notifications. There's a quite a big range of things that we can do with Power Automate as well. And then finally, I just wanted to mention here the other key player of the Power Platform, which is Power BI. We're not going to look at Power BI so much today because I do feel this is going to be a good thing we can cover in another webinar. So what Power BI does is allows us to create reports based on some of our data that we've got. But we're going to be looking at Power Apps and Power Automate in particular today. And I just wanted to add this little quote in here as well as to why you might want to change. And this quote from Benjamin Franklin, which is, "For every minute spent in organising, an hour is earned." And I really think that we can use this kind of method when we think about creating apps and automations for our business, because we may spend a day or 2 days or even a week, or projects can go on for even longer than that to build a solution. But the time that we are then giving back to our employees is so valuable, and it allows them to work on other things such as personal development or high priority tasks. So I just really kind of heard this quote recently. I thought it fitted in quite well with what we're sort of trying to achieve with the Power Platform. So let's take a look now at the challenge for today. So like I say, I wanted to talk you through a particular customer's scenarios. Now this is Chloe's Cupcakes, which you may recognize from the SharePoint webinar I did last week. And what Chloe's Cupcakes, what the challenge is that they want to use the Power Platform to change some of their ways of working, to allow their employees to manage their time more effectively and work on things that are a little bit more urgent, which I just think is one of those scenarios that probably a lot of us want to do. And if you did have a think at the start of the webinar about some of these similar things that might be affecting you, that you think, oh God, this takes so long, I wish there was just a little button that I can press, the Power Platform is going to give you the ability to do that. So let's have a look at this challenge number 1 in more detail. So we're going to take a look at it from the sales team's perspective. Now, the problem is that when the sales team are with their customers, they're using paper invoices and basically writing things down. So they're writing down the cupcake orders, or they might be printing documents out, or they might be doing it in Excel. When they're finished for the day, all of their orders go into an Excel spreadsheet, and then that's emailed over to the order team or the finance team. Then we want these orders to actually go directly to the bakers and the merchandise team for them to actually process the orders. However, there's a delay for this to happen because we've got to kind of wait for the sales team to get time to upload them into Excel. And, you know, are we really justifying this time? Are they doing this in their work time, or is it one of those situations, which I'm sure you might be familiar with, that employees are actually having to spend extra time in their personal time to get these little kind of finicky tasks done? Now, the solution is that, and this is the solution that I've already built and that I'm going to show you today, is I've created a Power App which the sales team can use to quickly input their orders. It also allows the team to browse through their orders and update their information. These orders are automatically submitted to a data source, and in today's scenario, we're going to be using SharePoint. And we're also using Power Automate to direct the orders to the bakers and the merchandise team via their Teams Planner. Now, Teams Planner might not be the particular tool that you'd want to use, but in this scenario, I'm trying to keep it all in the Office 365 world, and hopefully make the most of what should already be available to you if you do already have that Office 365 license in. So let's go ahead and take a look at our app. Now, if you just bear with me whilst I pull this up. So here we have our app, and I'm going to run it in a second, but this is basically just to introduce you to Power Apps. So we're in Power Apps at the moment, and this is a Canvas app. So as I mentioned, this is that drag and drop area that we can use to build different pages and things like that. So I'm going to go ahead and run the app, but just kind of take a look at this screen. This is what you would see when you're creating apps. As you can see, I've got a big picture here. You can add so many different tools and features, which you'll see as I kind of run through the process of this. So just thinking back to that challenge, we've got the sales team who are having to manually input their orders in Excel and then send these on an email to our ordering team. Okay, so our load screen is now loaded, and I've got a couple of buttons here, and we're going to go into the orders area. And what we can actually see here is we've got a list of all of the orders. This is the upcoming orders, and this is basically just a connection to a data source. Now, you may remember that I said we were using SharePoint. So what I'm going to actually do is show you the back-end data. And remember that you don't have to use SharePoint. You can use any sort of form of data source that you like. Just a quick one as well, actually. Let me just show you the order form. It will probably be useful if I show you this. So this is the kind of scenario that we're looking at. This is what the sales team would usually do when they're creating an order. So they're putting in the customer's to address, shipping address, the invoice number, the quantity of each different thing that the person wants to buy, and then the subtotal, total due. etc., etc. So this is what they were using before. Now this is what they're using now, our Cupcake Order app and also our SharePoint data source. Well, not that they really need to see the data source. I'm just coming into this to show you how it's kind of all sitting together. So we've got the orders area, and you can think of this like the order header. So we've got an invoice number, date, address, and the total amount. And we also have a connection here to the order lines. Now, this is a lookup value that I've done in SharePoint. Now, you don't need to worry about SharePoint at all for this. It's just to kind of show you the data, and chances are you would want to store your data somewhere else anyway. SharePoint is a nice enough place, and it's quite easy to set up, which is why I've used it for this demo. So here's all of our order lines. So you can see all the different types of products, their unit prices, and also their total prices, which is just a calculation from the quantity and the unit price. And then we've got the connection over to our invoice number. So you can see that all of these order lines, are related to invoice number 001. So hopefully that gives you an idea of the data. Now, just to quickly run through how this app works, so I'm just going to go ahead and create a new order. First thing that I want you to notice here is that our invoice number has been automatically detected. Now, I noticed when I was actually doing the testing for this that when I was scanning the documents through, which is the next part of the demonstration that I'm going to show you, but I was actually overlapping some of the invoice numbers and putting them in wrong. So what I added here was a nice little calculation which basically checks the last order number which was submitted and make sure that it's incrementing that value every single time. So we're on invoice number 007 now because our last one was 006. So if you imagine this is our sales team out on the field with their customers, they've got this app up on their phone or perhaps a tablet, whichever is the preference for them and the company, and they can easily use this functionality. So we've got a date picker here, and you can see this is quite big on the screen, particularly when I'm using it in the desktop mode. But if we were on a mobile app, you can imagine this is very easy to use with the touch of a finger. We've got some fields like the phone number, and I'm just going to enter just some random numbers in there. And then we've got a shipping address field, and I'm just going to put line 1, line 2, and line 3. Now, what I do want to clarify here as well is that we can actually pull this information in from something like an address list that we've got, so we can automatically look at our contacts and our customers. It may be in Dynamics, it may be in a SharePoint list or something like that. I've just kept this pretty simple because it's not really the focus of this demonstration, but there's loads of cool things that we can sort of add in to make this easier. So it'll automatically pick up the person's phone number and their shipping address just by finding who that contact actually is. Okay, now we want to add some order lines to this order, so I'm going to click Add Order Lines. And then I'm going to put in a quantity, let's go for 15. And then I'm going to choose what I want to add. So I'm going to go for some lemon drizzle cupcakes. And then the unit price, I've left this as a kind of free text field here at the moment. It would probably be a case that you'd have a price list or a price list for different customers, but because I wanted it to be sort of adaptable for the demo, I've just gone with a text field. And then you'll see here that our total has been automatically calculated. So what the app's doing as well is also giving us the ability to reduce the risk of errors, to reduce the chance of errors cropping up, because we're kind of making sure that that maths doesn't get calculated incorrectly because the app's just doing it itself as it goes along. Again, there's a lot more that we can do with these calculations, but I just want to keep it nice and simple just for the sake of the demonstration. And I'm just going to add one more order line in here. And let's do some cupcake stands at £3 each. And I'm going to add that as well. Now, it's not the most all singing, all dancing app. Again, I'm just doing this really to show you the functionality. So once that order's been created, we're going to submit. And we can now see that that order appears in our list. So I'd say we've checked off the ability now of one of our key challenges, which was for the sales team to be able to easily input those orders. We've done that very, very simply. Now, another of the points was for them to be able to find their orders. So we've got a little search bar here, and we can search for a particular invoice number, and it will pull it up for us straight away. Now we've also got the ability to view an order, and we can see more information about that order, and we've also got the ability to change some of these things. So it may be a scenario that you want to have that flexibility to maybe come in and change the shipping address or the total and things like that. Really, these should be automatically calculated, but let's just pretend that actually happened, because it's kind of one of the other areas of the app that I wanted to show you. Okay, so great. From the sales team's perspective, we've overcome that challenge of them actually inputting the orders. Now, what's actually been happening this whole time is when those order lines are generated, we actually want to send them directly to the bakers or to the merchandise team. So if it's a cupcake, obviously we want that to go to the bakers, and if it's a t-shirt or a cupcake stand, we want those to go to our merchandise team. So let's have another look back at the data just so you can see that everything's kind of worked. We've got our order in here. So we've got 007, and then we've got our order lines. Might need to give that a quick refresh. And we can see, sorry, if you can see right at the very bottom, we've got 2 new order lines related to that order. So we've got lemon drizzle cupcakes and the cupcake stands. So great, those orders have been put into our system. Then what happens is our flow gets triggered, and this is where I'm going to show you Power Automate and the flow that we've made here. Now, hopefully I'm going to click on the correct one. So I'm going to show you what's actually been happening during the time that we've been speaking and that I've been kind of demoing this. So when an item is created, and this is looking at our SharePoint data source. So when our item is created in our order lines, this is when this flow gets triggered. Now, in a real life scenario, you might want to have something like a schedule running every 5, 10, 15 minutes. I think that's probably the better option, but for the sake of the demonstration, I just wanted this to happen instantly, so we're not waiting around for anything. So our item is created. We then want to get the order header so we can pull out a bit more information from there. And then what I've got is a switch function. Now, if you don't understand what you can see right now, this is Power Automate, and this is a flow that we've created. So this process is just going to happen for us automatically. Now, don't worry if you don't understand it too much. It's just a case of kind of getting to grips with these things and the different actions and the different things that you can do. But I think it generally gives you a nice view of what's possible anyway, just because it gives us this nice sort of interface where we can say, okay, this happens, then this happens, then this happens. So hopefully you're staying with me. If not, I'm sure you can come and look back and watch the webinar again. So what we're actually doing is we need to make sure that our different items are going to the correct team. So what we're going to do is look at this description value, which is this description over here. So you can see we've got the cupcakes, cupcake stands, and also t-shirts as well. So based on what that is, we're determining where it actually goes. So if it's a cupcake stand, we want it to go to the merch team, and this is where we're creating a task in Planner. Hopefully you're familiar with Planner, and in Teams, which I'm going to show you very shortly. But we did do a Teams webinar a couple of weeks ago that you can always check out that has a little bit more information on that. But basically Planner is allowing us to just create some quick and easy tasks that can be ticked off. So that's what we're doing here. So we're creating a task within Planner. We're giving it a title, which is the quantity, and also the description value, which is just that information that I'm pulling out that has literally gone in from the app. We're putting it in a bucket, which is just something that you can use in Planner to kind of organize where you want things to go. And then we're also giving it a due date, where I've done a bit of a calculation here. So I've said if it's a cupcake stand, the due date is going to be 2 days from when this order was raised. If it's a t-shirt, I think we're giving it 3 days. And if it's a cupcake, we're only giving it 1 day because we want those cupcake orders to go through nice and quickly. So just think of how you can maybe use these sorts of calculations to help manage and how you kind of time things and how you want things to sort of get processed. The other part of these flows is to post a message as the flow bot, and I'll show you that shortly as well. And this is just where we're saying that a new order has been generated. and this just happens automatically. Now, this doesn't have to be a message in Teams. It can be a mobile notification. It can be an email. It can be a Teams chat. It can be a whole heap of different things. It just depends on what connector that you want to use. And there are so many. I can't go into detail of all the different connectors on this webinar, but do check them out. I think there's over 300 that you can use. So there's so much variety that you can do to really suit your specific needs. And then just on this last area over here, I'm pretty much saying, because this is the default, that if it isn't a cupcake t-shirt and isn't a cupcake stand, then it must be an actual cupcake. So that's where we're going to run this flow here, and it's going to go to the bakers. So let's have a look in Teams. So I'm part of both teams, luckily, so I can show you everything. So here we can see these flows, which I just referred to, that automatic flow bot, which is telling us that a new order has been generated. So it may be that you want this to go to a specific person who always does the salted caramel cupcakes, for example. You can do that. And then what happens is our tasking planner gets created. So here I've got the orders. And I'm just going to switch this view over just because I prefer the progress view when I'm looking at the bakers. And here we can see all of the orders that have come through. So these have literally just been generated from that Power App. So it's a really nice view. And I'm not going to go into too much detail with Planner and what Planner can do, but basically you can kind of drag and drop things over here. So if different people want to pick up different orders, we can tick them off. We can also click into something and assign it to ourselves if we want to, or another member of the team. We can change the priority and things like that. So if you kind of imagine a way that you might do this if you have sort of a warehouse type of scenario, I've just used, as I say, I've just used Planner here. And if we look into the merch team, we've got the Flowbot running again and just posting us those messages when the orders get generated nice and easily. And then in our orders, we can see the two buckets which are created. So we've got one for t-shirts and one for cupcake stands. And again, these can just get ticked off once they get complete by the teams. Okay, so I think that's everything for the first scenario of the first challenge. I'm just going to nip back over to the slideshows just to confirm. So we've created a Power App, we've allowed them to browse through their orders, they're submitting the orders, and then Power Automate is directing those orders to the correct teams. So fab, that's all working. Now let's have a look at challenge number 2. Sorry, challenge number 1 for the finance team. Now, the finance team's problem is that they've got a lot of these forms, like I showed you just that Word document earlier on. They've got a lot of paper forms and a lot of PDF order forms, which they're manually typing into Excel. They then email the Excel documents over to the bakers and merchandise team to make and deliver the orders. So it's the same sort of scenario as the sales team. They're just getting that information over to the people to actually deliver them. So the solution that we're looking at here is we're creating an app to scan the paper orders using the form processing AI model. Now I'll go into that a little bit later on. And basically what's going to happen is we're going to pull the information from that piece of paper or the PDF and put it directly into our database. And this is a really cool feature. So I'm going to just go straight into it and show you how this works. So we are back in our Cupcake Orders app, and I'm going to move over to the form processor. And I think, sorry, I just need to run my apps on start. Okay, so what we want to do is scan our order form. Now, if you imagine, probably a nice, easy way to do this would be for someone to get their camera out, take a snap of the order form, and then get it to process, which I'll show you shortly. But just for the sake of this demonstration, I've already taken the pictures of our order forms, and I'm just going to pull one up. Let's go for this one here, and I'm going to open that. And what's happening now is our form is actually getting processed and analysed to pick out these bits of information within the form. And then what's going to happen is we can then automatically push that information to our data source. So it does take a little while to do this, so just bear with it, and then you'll see that it'll sort of pop up with once it's finished and once it's been analysed. It's definitely taken a little longer than usual today, but that always happens in these sorts of scenarios. Right, okay, here we go. So our order has been analysed, and you can see here, hopefully you can see, it might be quite small, but basically the address area over here, it's not that certain that it's got those correct, but I think I'm going to trust it. I'm going to think it's done a pretty good job. The ship to, again, is not that sure, but with the other areas like the quantities and the descriptions and things like that, it's actually 100% sure that it's got those values correct. Now, real life scenario, you probably wouldn't want to have all these annotations coming up, but I just wanted to show you sort of how this works. And just to provide a bit more information on how this form processing AI model works, basically all you need to do is, I imagine that different businesses are going to have different types of order forms. Not everyone's going to have their ship to address over there. They might have it somewhere else. They're not all going to be looking at the same products and things like that. So what you would do is basically submit some photos, so pictures like this or PDFs, whatever you've got to hand, and it can even be written documents as well. So like I said, with the sales team who were handwriting their orders, we can actually submit those in as well. The more pictures you do, the better. And then basically what's going to happen is the model's going to sort of train itself to detect where things are on the page. So when it comes to you submitting forms again and again and again, it can easily pick up that information and it knows what goes where. And you can specify, yep, I want to pull out the invoice number, but nope, I don't want to pull out the fax number or something like that. So that's how this works. Okay, so I'm just going to click on next. And what's actually happened here is you can see it's pulled out this information for us already. Now, we didn't really need to include this step. It sort of depends how much trust we have in the form AI model with the form processor. But what I've done is actually kept these as free text fields, just in case someone, like I said before, just in case someone does want to come in and make some changes. So we've now got the ability to delete and add things, but what we can see is really it's picked out all that information from the form, which I just think is great. It saved us having to read and write things manually, which again takes a lot of time. Okay, so once I'm happy with this, I'm going to click on next. And we can also see that it's picked out each of those different order lines from that table in the document. So again, how much time has that saved? It's just made things so much easier. And we can also see basically all the information that's been pulled in. So now I'm going to click create order. And that's done. So this exact same thing's happened there. Our information has gone into our orders again. I think it will be this one here. And our order lines have been created as well. Now, what's also happened is it's again triggered off that same flow to create the items for the bakers and the merchandise team. Realistically, you would probably think that the order people processing the orders, they're going to be old pieces of paper anyway. So you may well not want to have a kind of automated process like that. Another thing you may be thinking about here is sort of an approval process. So when we kind of create these orders, maybe we want them to just be approved before they actually get created, or maybe if it's an order of more than 100 cupcakes, we want to make sure that that gets approved first. Now that can absolutely be done. I'm going to show you an approval process very shortly, but in a different kind of element. But I just wanted to make that clear that we can have an approval thing going on here just to make things, I suppose, a little bit more secure. So I think that sums up what we can do there with our form builder. I know I was pretty brief with that, but again, it's not the main focus. I just wanted to show you some of the functionality on how very easy it is to automate things and to kind of pull out that paper information and just get it into our data source so quickly. So let's go back to our slides. So we have created an app to scan the paper orders, use the model, but pull the information out, put it into our database, and then get it to be sent straight to the order team if we really wanted to. So hopefully you've got a good understanding of that now. Next up, we've got challenge number 2. So we're kind of moving on to a completely different thing now, but we're still with Chloe's cupcakes. And the problem is now that there's a lot of members of the marketing team who use the Twitter account. Sometimes tweets can get sent out with spelling errors, and it's hard for them to easily see when a tweet has already been posted. And the hashtag Chloe's Cupcakes, which is so important for branding, is getting missed off some of the tweets. So we want to make sure that that's kind of enforced. So we're going to do that with a flow and an approval process before we publish things to Twitter. We're also going to track the Twitter caption and the publish date and store the information in SharePoint. So I am using SharePoint again just because it's my favorite and it's nice and easy to use. So I think I'm going to just close off some of these things now that I don't think we need anymore, just so it's nice and easy for me to see. Okay, so we're in the marketing team now. And the marketing team have got a collection of photos, and I'm just going to swap this view over just so you can see the photos to make it a bit more interesting. And what we want to happen is when these photos want to be published to Twitter, a member of the team basically has to come in and start off a flow, which will be a Power Automate flow, and push those pictures out to Twitter once it's been approved. So let's take a quick look at our flow that we've got going on here. So you can pretty much ignore all the stuff at the top. It's just where I'm getting the information. So when I'm selecting that document, basically what I'm doing is I'm starting and waiting for an approval. Now, I've just assigned this to myself for the sake of the demo, but here is a great opportunity for you to use the Office 365 connectors, and you can pick up who that person's manager is, or it might just be a specific person or a specific team that you want to go to. You can basically pull out that information and use that. But as I say, just for now, I'm just using my own email address. So we're starting and waiting for an approval. And you can see that we're kind of pulling in some bits of content which we're actually inputting at this very, very first stage. Then we're going to say, if it's approved, we're going to actually post that tweet, and we're going to update the file properties to let the team know that it's been published. So that's going to help us overcome that challenge of we don't know when something's been published or not, and stop people publishing the same things. Let me just give you a quick snapshot of the Twitter account that I've made. So I'm just going to give it a refresh, and you can see this is what we've kind of got going on at the moment. Okay, so back to the SharePoint list. I'm going to go back to the list view just because I really, really love these flow buttons that you can create and put in a SharePoint list. Now, what you can always do to trigger a flow is by selecting your item, clicking on Automate, and when it loads, you can see that we've got the option to click on it and trigger it from here. But I don't really like that because it's kind of hard to find, and I find that it's too many clicks. And I don't really like clicking that much. So let's go for one of these images down here. And I'm going to click to send it for an approval. And then this opens up this window over here that basically is where we're going to trigger the flow and provide some more information if we wanted to have that in there as well. So we're going to say, first thing we need to input is a message to the approver. And I'm just going to put, please approve. And we're going to also put the caption here. So I'm just going to put new strawberry cakes. And if you remember as well, actually, we wanted to make sure that that hashtag Chloe's Cupcakes is always put on our tweets. Now, I'm not going to do that from here. I'm gonna just run this flow and then take you back over to the flow area. So I'm actually, where have I put it? So just in the caption, I think it's when I post the tweet. So I'm getting that caption which I've extracted from the SharePoint list, and I'm just manually, well, not manually, I've just manually put the hashtag Chloe's Cupcakes in here to make sure that that gets put at the end of all of my tweets. So we're kind of killing two birds with one stone there. Okay, so we've triggered that flow. Now an email should have come through to me, but you can see this is one from earlier on. I've been having some issues with this mail account, so let's just pretend that that came through. It is just something that's going on with my Outlook. I think it's because it's a dev environment. Sometimes it doesn't kind of scan the emails properly, but this is the sort of thing we're going to get. please can you approve this? And we've got the proposed caption, and we've got the comments from the requestee, which is basically just that information that I put in the flow. We've then got the option to approve or reject. Now, if you're using Outlook, the desktop client, you can just literally click approve or reject, and it will do it automatically straight for you in the email. Just to note as well, we've got a link directly to the photo, but if you're using Outlook for the web, if I go and click approve here, it's going to open up the kind of flow approvals area, which you're not going to see if you are using Outlook desktop, but I don't have my mine set up like that. Okay, so we've got our approval, which is the one that I just sent. You can see that that came in 1 minute ago. As I say, we should have had an email, but there's just something going on with the emails at the moment. So I'm just going to do it from here, which is absolutely fine. In Flow, we've got this kind of action items area where we can just kind of tick off approvals as we go. So I'm going to approve that. I can also add in comments, and then what we can do in the flow is say maybe if it gets rejected, to send these comments back to the person who sent the request, and then to let them know, no, this image isn't good quality, please resubmit the flow or something like that. But I'm just going to approve it with no comments and just confirm. And then what we should see if we head over to our Twitter page is our latest tweet has been published. We've got that hashtag there, and we've got the image. So it's literally just moved that from SharePoint and tweeted it. Now, just to have a think of some other scenarios, you may want to do something like this when on a schedule, just to make sure that tweets are going out at a specific time of day. You may not need an approval process, but there's loads of different ways that you can kind of adapt your flows and things like that to kind of help you sort of keep on top of your marketing with a little bit of automation behind it. It just saves duplication of having to do something in one place and then move back to Twitter and then copy out the same information. What I actually forgot to show you as well, okay, no need to refresh, it's already found it. So we can see that it's updated our Twitter, our photos list, and we can see what the caption was. We can see that it was published, and I forgot to go over here, but before it had been approved, it was actually set as pending approval. And we can also see when it was published to Twitter. So we've covered off that challenge that the marketing team were facing, where they kind of weren't sure when tweets had been published. So let's move back over to the slides. So let's just double check. So we've created a flow for the approval process, and we've tracked the caption and publish date and stored that info in SharePoint. Now let me just quickly check the time, because I'm hoping to just do a quick 5-minute demo of another app. Now I don't want to overcomplicate things too much, but I just wanted to kind of show you something that I've been working on more in my own time and more for the team at Ultima, to kind of get around some of the barriers that we've been facing. And it's more of a fun kind of app that I've created. So just going to load this up now before we kind of look at the final parts of that slideshow. So we're just going off topic a little bit now, but I just wanted to show you this because I've kind of stuffed in as many cool features as I could to kind of give you an idea of what's actually possible with this app. So let's load it up. Let me just run my on start. So I'm going to play this app and give you an idea of what we can do in here. So it's called Walk of the Day. What this app basically does is it encourages our team to go outside and carry out a particular challenge. So it's basically like a scavenger hunt. So the scavenger hunt of today, and this is for the demo just because I'm kind of sat in the office right now and I'm not outside. Today's challenge is very boring and it's a glass, and what I'm doing is using the computer vision API, which I've embedded into the app, to detect what's in this image that I'm going to take and confirm whether it's there or not. So if you can imagine in really this app, and when I do get it up and running, it's not going to be a glass, it's going to be a river, a dog, a bicycle, things like that, something a bit more inspirational than a glass, but I'm just using a glass to show you. So let's just talk you through a few of the different elements on this page. And like I say, I just wanted to tell you about them just because I've tried to pull in a lot of different features here. So we've first got welcome back, Chloe. Now this is a pretty standard thing that we can do in Power Apps. We can detect which users logged into the app, nice and easy, and pull out some information about them. We can also connect it up to their Office 365 profile and their Azure AD profile as well to maybe pull in information about their groups and things like that. So the next part of this app is we've got a little caption here which has been taken from the MSN weather connector, which I've inputted in here as well, and it's basically telling us what the weather's going to be like, and we're also detecting where the user is. I don't actually know where that is. That isn't where I am, but the MSN weather, maybe the location detection from my browser isn't massively accurate, but yeah, we can see up here that the page is actually tracking my location. So if you imagine this is a phone app, it's going to be a little bit more fun, and it's going to tell you basically what the weather is like today. The next thing I've got, and just this element here, and it's pretty seamless because of how I've kind of created it, but here it says perfect weather to go on your walk of the day. Now, if it was 5 degrees, we obviously aren't going to pretend that it's perfect weather. So what I've got here, and I'm going to show you a bit more of the technical side shortly, but this is basically going to say, well, this is basically based on what the temperature is. So I think I've said something like, if it's less than 10 degrees, it's going to say, don't forget to take a jacket. If it's above 10 degrees, then it's going to say perfect weather to go on your walk of the day. Obviously, a little bit more work here can be done to make it a bit more informative. And then our little sun spinning GIF that we've got as well. If it's bad weather, then that's going to change over to a rain cloud with rain coming out of it, and it'll be blue, and then it will obviously say, don't forget to take your jacket. So we've got today's challenge. Now this is something that's going to automatically update and adapt based on what day it is. So basically what you'd want here is a kind of table of information of the different challenges that you want to have. We've got a start challenge button, which I'll show you very shortly. But we've also got our leaderboard, and this is basically pulling out the members of my team. And I've stored this in SharePoint, so you can see we've got quite a few users here in SharePoint, but I only want to see the members of my team in this particular scenario, so it's only picking out a few of those people. So we've got our leaderboard and our scores, which are being tracked in SharePoint. And then you may notice as well, we've also got a little star for the person who's currently at the top of the leaderboard, just to show that they're #1 at the moment. So let's go ahead and start this challenge. Just to be warned, we're going to be going into my camera now, so just to give you an idea of how this all works. Okay, great. So hopefully you can see me now. And what I'm going to do, I'm just going to hold up my glass here. My lighting is pretty bad in this room, but hopefully this is going to be good enough. So I've taken my picture and I'm going to click on OK. Now what's happening with the computer vision API at the moment is it's analysing my image, and I'm a bit worried now that I've taken a bad picture of the glass, but let's just wait and see what happens. So it's analysing the image and it's trying to detect a glass. So let's just pretend we're outside, and it's analysing the image, and hopefully it's detecting a river or a bicycle or something like that. And all of these objects are already part of the computer vision API, so it's not a model that you necessarily need to train or anything like that. And we can't see it. Okay, here we go. So the analysis is complete, fabulous. Now this caption that we've got here at the bottom, what I've taken into account is the percentage confidence that the computer vision has of this caption of the picture. So this is no kind of smoke and mirrors effect, by the way. This is literally just analyze this image and it's telling me what it can see in this image. So if I do something completely different, then it's going to change this. So it's 46% sure that this is a person holding a wine glass. Not quite, but I'm happy and I'm going to proceed. That's probably why it's only 46% sure. So I'm going to submit this image. So I'm basically saying, yeah, my picture has a glass in and I'm ready to submit it for my challenge. So I've submitted the image, and great, I've passed the challenge and I've been awarded 1 point. And here's some other things that were picked up in that computer vision API and how it's detected it. So it can see glass and it can also see glasses because I'm wearing glasses. I've only got that shown for a couple of seconds, but yeah, you can now see that my score on the leaderboard has gone up. And that's because we've patched to this SharePoint list over here. It probably needs a refresh, but yeah, that's how I'm kind of keeping track of my scores. So yeah, I just wanted to give you a little insight into this app, and hopefully it might give you a bit of inspiration on something that you can do. And it's also something that I'm working on creating some videos and guidance for if you do want to create something like this yourself. So do kind of keep your eye out for those kind of things. And just very quickly, because I do want to give us 10 minutes to spare at the end, just so we can look at the last few slides. I'm just going to go into the app and just show you what I've done here now. If this doesn't make any sense to you, then do not worry, it's absolutely fine. This is the kind of, this is what's going off in the background, but I've kind of put some annotations here to show you what's actually happening when we load up the app. So we're collecting all of our users and all of their scores. We're getting the information of the person who's logged in. So we're using the Office 365 users connection to find who it is. And remember, we can pull out loads of different information like their group, their manager, their telephone number and things like that. There's a lot of different things we can do. We're getting their location as well. So this is where we're using the Bing Maps connection, and we're using the location, longitude and latitude to find that connection. We're then getting the user's address. From that address, we're pulling out the city, because I don't think it makes sense to say, oh, it's 10 degrees in, and then to show the whole address line. So we're just pulling out the city because that's just what we want our users to see. We are getting the weather. So this is where we're using the MSN weather connection, pulling out today's forecast and showing it in metric. And then here's that table that I was referring to. Now, I've just done it in the app, but you may want a kind of external data source, or it may be that you want to allow your own users to say, this is a challenge that I want to input. So I've maybe chosen a challenge for today, or maybe the winner of the day gets to choose what challenge they want. There's so much you can do. And then finally, we're getting the team name by using the Azure AD Get Group connector, and we're also getting the team members by using the Azure AD Get Group Members connector. So we're doing a lot there, and really that's kind of allowing us to do all these different things within the app. And if I just show you actually how kind of this bit over here works, and again, don't worry if you kind of don't understand all these weird little functions going on, but basically we're getting the daily summary of the user's weather. And when we're talking about the user weather, we're talking about the person who's signed in. We're finding out where they are and then getting that weather. And then we're saying it's this weather in, and then their city today. And then we're saying if the temperature is above 10, we're saying perfect weather to go on your walk of the day. If it's below 10, we're saying it's a little chilly, don't forget your coat. So yeah, that's pretty much what this app does. So hopefully that kind of gives you an idea of some more connections and some more functionality that we can do. And it's a little bit more of a sort of fun little feature that can be created. Okay, so yeah, I've kind of gone through a lot there. Hopefully it wasn't too overwhelming if you are new to Power Apps, but we weren't planning on just going into technical detail. It's more just to give you an idea of what can be done and to give you some inspiration on how you can kind of overcome some of those challenges yourself. Now, as I said before, Ultima, we are consultancy, but I mean, besides the kind of standard projects that you would do, where I suppose you'd say, yeah, we want you to go off and develop this particular thing for us. With the Power Platform, it is quite different because it is a tool that's kind of built for everyone to use. So I just wanted to go over some interactive training that we can do, which is app or flow in a day, or Power BI in a day, or all these different things that we can do in a day. And it's basically aimed at maybe a member of the team to sort of come on site when times have changed, I'm sure this can happen remotely as well, but I just wanted to give you an idea of what's actually possible. So if I can click, right, here we go. So first, looking at a beginner level. So this may be you need a bit of support. You're brand new to Power Apps. You've never used it before. So you might want a beginner level app in a day or a flow in a day. So remember, flows, those workflows. So this could be something like adding features to an app which Ultima has already built. So it may be at that walk of the day app. You might want to kind of have a day to have a play around with that, and add some more functionality to it, like a photo gallery, so we can see everyone's photos who have actually who's actually been using the app, and kind of create a system where you can rate other people's pictures and things like that. Going up, we've got an intermediate level, and this could be something like creating a simple app or flow from scratch, such as a company suggestion box app. And let's try and remember as well that these app or flow in a days don't necessarily have to be a day. It can be over a few days. And I think at the intermediate level as well is how we can maybe look at a scenario that you've already got, and you might want to try and create something around that. Or it could just be an app that's we've already got kind of an idea of a scope, and we can just use that to provide you with that support and development and kind of teach you how to build it as you go along. And finally, just at the advanced and admin level, this could be like creating an app or a flow from scratch with some of that artificial intelligence functionality, like the form processor or the cognitive services, which is what we used to detect that my image had a glass in. So that was the computer vision API. There's a lot of other things as well. There's language and translation and things like that. So there's so many tools that you can use. And I would really recommend you check out the cognitive services as well, to see what's actually available there. And you might see that it will really benefit you in some way. And then at the admin level, we can take a look at how to manage and administer company-wide apps and flows. So I think at the moment a challenge for a lot of people is that some users want to get started with the Power Platform. Some teams are already using it, some aren't, and you may need a little bit of guidance on how you can kind of manage this and make sure that everyone's kind of adhering to the same maybe DLP policies or the same branding and marketing guidelines and things like that. So yeah, that's just pretty much what can be covered in app or flow in a day. As I say, it's very flexible, and Power Platform is just something that's always available to learn from. So I think having these kind of days of support are very valuable. And I think that's it. That time has gone by very quickly. I'm sure that it has been nearly an hour now. But yeah, hopefully you enjoyed it. I'm just going to flick over to the next slide. If you do have any questions, you can pop them into, I think there's a questions area. The only problem is I always struggle to read them. So in regards to, okay, I've just seen one question regarding sharing the walk of the day app. What I'm actually doing is looking to create some YouTube videos. I've already started on the very first page. My YouTube account is CLawra, CLAWRA, if you want to check that one out. So I am going to be providing guidance on how you can build that walk of the day app. In terms of actually having the app available to share and publish somewhere, there is still some work that needs to be done with it. However, if it is possible, then I will kind of get that in a position where it can be shared, and then maybe I'm not sure whether it may require some collaboration with Microsoft to get that done, so I'll have to check because I haven't done that myself personally. And remember as well, if you do want to kind of have a bit more of a personal conversation, feel free to shoot over an email or get in touch with your account managers. Right, sorry, just having a look for a couple of the other questions. Yes, so just looking at the question now, I'm sorry, but the format of this questions area is really bad, so it's a struggle for me to read it. So we've got one regarding pulling the shipping address from the location via Google Maps. For example, if the salesperson is filling out the details for their customers. So yeah, there's a couple of ways that you can do that. So there's a Bing Maps connector that can connect into Power Apps, and there's also a Google Maps connector. I've only used the Bing Maps one before. I'm not too sure of the functionality of the Google Maps one, but it's probably pretty similar. But what you can do is actually type in an address and basically pull that information up, or you can get a kind of little map image and have a little pinpoint of where that person's address is on the map. So I think that's probably the situation that you're, the scenario that you're looking to cover with that. And just to mention the YouTube name again, it's CLAWRA. So I tried to create something short and sweet, but really it's just the worst name ever. But I've only got one video on there at the moment. I'm also doing blog posts, and if you check out the blogs area on the Ultima website, one of the blogs that I've done is there, and then it's got the link to the YouTube video in there as well. Okay, I think that's it for the questions. So we've only had a couple. Okay, I've just seen another one come through. So the accuracy of recognizing handwritten documents. So I did do some testing on this, and I did want to show it for my demo, but because I only had 5 documents to train the model, it wasn't as accurate as I would have liked. However, if you scanned in the documents, it would have been better, but I think it was a combination of my phone, the lighting and things like that that were kind of making the it wasn't as accurate as I would have hoped, which is why I didn't use it for the scenario. But if you train up your model, then the accuracy of recognizing the handwritten documents gets higher. And I have seen it work very, very effectively in other scenarios. It's just that for this, I didn't really have enough documents to do it myself. In terms of the time lag, when I was scanning the written document, kind of analysing the written documents as well, it was usually taking about 20 seconds for me, but I suppose the bigger the document is, there is going to be a bit of a time lag. But I do think it's worth it, really. It's worth the time to be kind of, if you're saving it from having to actually write that in manually. Okay, so I think that's it for questions. Thank you very much for the questions. I do appreciate it. It's nice to have a bit of interactivity at the end. As I say, do reach out to our email address, check out the blogs and things like that. We are kind of aiming to be a bit more active on those as well. And hopefully I'll be doing another webinar soon for you to see it as well. And if there is any more questions that I have missed, I'll get back to those on an email very shortly. And that is it. Thank you very much. I really, really hope you enjoyed it, and thank you for watching, and do join us again soon for the next one. Thank you, everyone, and have a good long weekend.